to take a holistic view of someone's business because it does all fit together. But at the end of the day, whether you're running ads, doing organic, working with influencers and content creators, affiliates, anything you're doing, email is the catch-all for all of it. And the biggest holdup for people, well, there's two. One is they don't like email. So they started kind of projecting their own feelings on their customers, which we can never do that. I hate SMS, but you know what? It makes a lot of businesses a lot of money. And then the other thing was they don't know what to say. They feel annoying and salesy. And so it's a lot of education around how powerful email is and how to just kind of get out of our own way. It's not always about getting that immediate sale and getting the immediate ROI. It's just reminding that person that you exist so that when they're ready to buy a product like yours, they come to you first, right? Because unless you're Squatty Potty, like someone else out there is selling what you sell. So what, like you just have to remind them that you're there. Someone said, like, you can't make someone buy. Like you just can't. Either they're ready to buy or they're not ready to buy. Yes, you can help them make the buying decision, but so much of this is just being there when they're ready and letting people know that you exist. You can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows you have it, it's not going to matter, right? The most visible one is going to win regardless. I understand that subject lines matter, right? Because it's the thing that's going to get them to open. And so many people are of the belief that the subject line is the most important thing that you can write, because if they never open it, they're not going to see what's inside. And that is true. But at the same time, in my experience, I have found that what's more important is the overall relationship that that particular subscriber has with your business. Good subject line or bad subject line, right? If I am interested in what this brand has to say, the subject line is not the reason why I open or don't open the email. Very rarely. It's, do I want to hear what this person has to say to me? Do I care about what this business might be showing me right now?
Hello, everybody. How are you? Welcome to another episode of The Link, your e-commerce connection. And today we have a very special episode because we are with a marketing badass. We're with an e-commerce badass. We have Jessica Totillo, and she's responsible for the e-commerce badassery. How are you, Jessica?
I'm so good, Diego. How are you?
Fine. Thank you very much. I'm really excited to have you here because we had a previous conversation, and I love how you position yourself as the not the badass yourself, but the e-commerce badassery. So can you tell us a little bit of how did you came up with that? What happened in your life before that you said, okay, e-commerce needs a little bit of badassery, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my previous life, I've worked in retail for 20 plus years, and my background was always in brick and mortar. And then the last day job that I had, I was in their marketing department and then switched into the e-com division. And I was the only employee for the first 3 years of that business, which I think I told you I cried a lot at that job. It was very stressful, but I wouldn't take any of it back because I learned so much. And I always knew I wanted to do something on my own. I just didn't know what that was going to be. I just assumed I would start another product-based business because that's what I've always done. And I ended up supporting small business entrepreneurs. And what I realized was there's all these people, they started their product business from their kitchen table, right? They created a new product to solve a problem, or they really love clothes, so they start a boutique, but they don't know any of that back end stuff. And while many of them found a lot of success, they didn't truly understand how they got there. So I started teaching them all of the things that I learned the hard way at my previous job to kind of give them some shortcuts, right? Teaching them how to read their data and all of that. And the whole idea of e-commerce badassery was I want them to feel like the badass boss of their business. Like they're not flying by the seat of their pants, right? They're taking very specific things, like very specific steps that they're taking based on where they want to go. So that's the long roundabout way of explaining that.
That's great. And by the way, when I hear all of this, it sounds like you understand all of this service, all of this advice, coaching that you do, more of a not just for an e-commerce perspective, but also from a self-development perspective. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And from the client perspective, because I was the client for so many years. And, not to like poo on service providers, but they're not all created equal, Exactly. So I worked with some who I just kind of felt like they were giving me a new to-do list, but weren't really explaining why. And that just wasn't a great experience as the client. So I definitely approach it from the client perspective. And I want to make sure that they never feel reliant on me or anyone else, right? So I'm going to teach them how to fish so that they can go off and do it on their own. Because most of them are smaller businesses who can't, they don't have the revenue to just pay someone consistently all the time. They just need someone to come in, send them on the right track, and then they can go off and do the work.
Cool. That's great. And actually, you do a couple of very interesting things because you mainly focus on email marketing as a service. Mm-hmm. And you also do this coaching that we're talking about, but you also sell courses, correct?
Yes, I do too many things, Diego.
Too many things, is it?
It's too many things.
But I think that you do all of those things the right way, right? That wouldn't be such a burden.
Yeah, it's just evolved over time based on what I see people need in the market, right? And there's all different. Here's the thing about what's so crazy about e-commerce, and it's why I love it and why I love retail and why I've been doing it for so long, is it's one big puzzle, right? And all of the pieces have to fit together in order to be successful. So like when I started out doing email marketing with people, I'm like, cool, you have all these great automations, but you don't have any traffic moving through them. So they're not going to make you any money. So now we have to get you more traffic. And I just saw all of these little gaps. And my goal is to fill in those gaps with education, whether it's through a DIY course, I have a membership, and then the automation piece, if you just want to hand it off and don't think about it because you're already doing multi-6, multi-7 figures, you ain't got time for that, then that's something I can step in and do for you. But ultimately, I'm doing the thing I tell my clients not to do. And that's help as many people as you can in as many ways as you can. I don't actually recommend it. Be known for one thing. It's way easier. But yeah, that's kind of how I've been doing it.
But kind of, from what I understand, you kind of feel that you're all over the place, but you bring everything together through email marketing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I like to take a holistic view of someone's business because it does all fit together. But at the end of the day, whether you're running ads, doing organic, working with influencers and content creators, affiliates, anything you're doing, email is the catch-all for all of it. And so what I found is so many people, and I actually started my business completely by accident because I figured out that so many e-commerce businesses weren't taking advantage of email. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much money in email. And my background, the most recent job that I had, we sold a product that could not be advertised on social. And it also hurt our organic reach. So it was paid Google search ads and email. That was literally how we made our money. And so I know how powerful email is. And the biggest holdup for people, well, there's two. One is they don't like email. So they started kind of projecting their own feelings on their customers, which we can never do that. I hate SMS, but you know what? It makes a lot of businesses a lot of money. And then the other thing was they don't know what to say. They feel annoying and salesy. And so it's a lot of education around how powerful email is and how to just kind of get out of our own way.
Yeah. It's funny because I agree 100% in everything that you're saying, and I feel it the same. I love email as much as you do. And I always find myself in this situation where you're actually telling someone that doesn't like email why they should, it doesn't even matter if they like it or don't like it, right? But we use this benchmarks, right? And I guess these are universal benchmarks. Like you can drive up more than 30% of your business with just a 20% open rate. So you just need 20% of your subscribers to just open your emails, 1% to click your emails, and then you go down and down just to drive 30% of your online revenue. So when they realize that, they realize, okay, it's a numbers game.
Absolutely. And I think the latest statistic, it's somewhere between $40 and $44 of return for every dollar you put into email. And I know a lot of times people will hear the word 20% open and they think it's low.
Yeah.
Well, on social, only 3% of your audience sees your content. So 20% is actually huge, and it's more impactful because these are people who raised their hand and said, please email me and tell me what you have going on in your business. So they want to hear what you have to say, right? On social, you're just interrupting their scrolling. And so they're not paying as close attention to that post as they are when they open your email in their inbox. It's just, there's a million reasons why you got to do it.
And also there's something that there are no metrics because no one has invented a way to measure this, because people might not open your email, but it's there. They know it's there. If you're clever with the subject line and preview text, your message went through, right? So then you catch it on another channel. So you cannot measure that. Like it's that, like that silent subscriber or that silent customer that I got your message. I didn't open it, I didn't click, but I got your message. And I think that every one of us actually do that 100%. With our inboxes, right? Some of us use folders, so some of us just keep it there for later. We never read it again, but we know that's there.
Yeah, and sometimes I tell people, email, it's not always about getting that immediate sale and getting the immediate ROI. It's just reminding that person that you exist so that when they're ready to buy a product like yours, they come to you first, right? Because unless you're Squatty Potty, like someone else out there is selling what you sell. So why, like you just have to remind them that you're there. And I don't remember who said this. I feel like it was just recently. I got to make notes so I can give proper credit, but someone said like, you can't make someone buy. Like you just can't. Either they're ready to buy or they're not ready to buy. Yes, you can help them make the buying decision, but so much of this is just being there when they're ready and letting people know that you exist. You can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows you have it, it's not going to matter, right? The most visible one is going to win regardless.
And visible, and actually there's the availability bias. I don't know if you've heard about it, right? Mm-hmm. It's like what's out there, like what reminds me what I think of it like unconsciously. So and
there's a reason why very well-known brands spend millions of dollars on ads during the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's just to remind you, right, that they exist. You already know, you already buy them, but you just want to take up space in their brain.
And tell me, let's go deeper into email marketing as we both love it. So how would you define email marketing? How would you break it down into its different pieces?
Great question. So there's really two big pillars in email marketing There is your automations, and that's what makes you money while you sleep. And who doesn't want to do that? And then you have your campaigns. So those are the one-off emails that you send. So you definitely need a strategy for both of those. And then inside of each of them, it really depends a lot on your business, but I'm sure everyone hears the word segmentation all the time. And, people always say like the more personal and the more specific you can get, the better it converts, which is true to an extent. But I think sometimes we can over segment as well and miss out on revenue. Like if you have a segment with 20 people in it, that's pointless. Don't send an email to them. Just send it to a bigger group of people. So it's really automation, campaigns, and then who you're sending, what you're sending, and when you're sending it. And that's what you kind of have to figure out in each of those two buckets.
That's great. And I'm going to add another piece, a third part of email, if you want to mind.
Yeah.
Let's discuss it. List building.
Yes. Very important.
Like the foundation, right? And I see that many people, the typical, give me your email, I'll give you 10%. Give me your email, I give you, like you start, people don't understand how you can evaluate your brand just for doing what everyone's doing. I'm not saying discounts do not work, right? But also how tricks that you can use to evaluate your brand and also get their email address. Do you have any can you tell me about like how is it that you generally help your clients build their lists?
Absolutely. So it depends a little bit on the business. Here's the thing about discounts. In my experience, offering a discount on the pop-up, it doesn't necessarily train your customers to expect discounts. That is something that people fear. What will train them is you creating a new promo every weekend because you're trying to drum up sales. So, but discounts also, they're good for the person who's already ready to buy and maybe just needs to be convinced that they want to buy from you. If I'm shopping for a mattress, giving me a discount is not going to speed up my decision-making process. So it depends a little bit on your business, but there's two ways that I love to build an email list, and that is through quizzes and product launches. The third way, and this works for specific businesses, is actually educational PDFs. And there are a lot of product strategy people who will say, oh, you can't do that as a product-based business. That's for service or course creators. But at the end of the day, everyone's buying a product because they're looking for a solution to something or they want to feel better about themselves. And
we're talking about, sorry to interrupt, we're talking about a lead magnet, a proper PDF checklist, whatever, ebook.
Exactly. Yes. So there is room for that in product-based businesses as well. But again, my favorites are still the quiz and the product launch. And the quiz is superior for many reasons. One, because it's helpful to the customer, right? Especially if you have a really wide assortment of product. So I always like to think of e-com of how can I recreate the in-person experience on the internet? Because we know, people have been saying brick and mortar is dead for a long time. Brick and mortar is not going anywhere. You can't replace that experience. I have my previous day job. They open a store. It's profitable in 6 months and they just keep opening stores. A friend of mine, same thing, opens a store. It's profitable right away. Way easier than him trying to grow his e-com business right now. So it's leading that customer from landing on your website, asking them some questions and getting them to the best possible product for them. So it's a great experience for them, but it's also a great experience for you because you get to collect and store all that data about them that you can then use in your marketing. So quizzes are the bomb, and we can talk more about them if you want. And then the other one is product launches. So I've recently been talking about this more and more because so many businesses, they'll, launch a new product and they send one email and they post one post and they're like, why is nobody buying this? because you can't, like, no one's paying as close attention to you as you are. You're not that important. You have to give them a reason and excite them and get them engaged ahead of time so that by the time the product launches, they're like, oh my God, I need this, right? And they're just like refreshing their inbox, waiting for that launch email. So I love to use product launches to engage your existing audience and grow your list overall with new people too.
Let's talk about the quizzes. But first, before going to quizzes, we're talking about lists, and I would like to go into like how important is, some people call it list hygiene, some people call it list pruning, some people call it list cleaning. Like how important is to clean your list and also to not to be afraid of unsubscribes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Love this conversation. So the first thing is, don't get emotionally attached to your list. It's the number of people on your email list is a vanity metric, just like the number of followers you have on social media. It literally means nothing if they are not engaging and buying from you. So I typically like to list clean minimum every 6 months. If someone has not engaged with me in the last 6 months, they got to go because I'm paying for them to be on my list. And if I keep sending to them and they're not engaging, all of my metrics are going to go down, right? My open rate, my click rate, the deliverability is going to look bad. And the email service providers, Yahoo, Hotmail, Gmail, they want to see people engaging with your emails. And if they're not, they're going to start putting you in spam. So it is really important, one, not to send people that don't engage, but two, like just unsubscribe those people, get rid of them and move on. I know a lot of people will talk about, trying to revive people and things like that and I think you can do win back for purchasing. Absolutely. But in terms of win back for engagement, if you want to try it, go ahead, but like put not all that much effort into it because it doesn't really work that well in most cases. It's a little tricky because it's always easier to retain an existing customer, right, than it is to get a new one. And so you kind of feel that way about email too. But the ROI on the time, energy, effort you put into trying to get these people to engage with you again, it's like one last ditch effort and then just move on. Because also, depending upon your product, people are going to age out of what you sell, or they just don't need it in their life anymore and they're going to move on. So you got to move on too. That's how I feel about that. But minimum every 6 months.
6 months. That's great. So let's go back to the quizzes. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I agree 100% with what you said, but also I have mixed feelings because I see many people misusing quizzes, right? Like
interesting,
like email, because I can do it, I do it, right? There's no why behind it. There's no strategy. It's like or like the spinning wheel. Like, oh yeah, it's cool, but like I see more unqualified traffic for that spinning wheel if it's not properly done. So what is it that you need to take into consideration to have a successful quiz, apart from what you said about being relevant to them?
Yeah, absolutely.
How is it that you structure it?
Yeah. So I'll use an example from a recent client that we set up. She's an esthetician. She has an in-person spa, but then she sells products online and she really wants to build up the e-com side. But skincare is complicated. So what we did is it's all about the product recommendations. And during our research process, we went and took the quizzes from some of the really big skincare and beauty companies. And the results that they gave us, it was like 100 products. How is that any different than us just browsing your store? All you did was get information from us. Right? Yeah, like that doesn't make any sense. So when we created it, it was we have, I think it's an 8-step system, right? Like whatever the main 8 products are. And we just showed them one product from each category. And that was it. They can, of course, go and shop other stuff. But the whole point is you're taking this for a result and to get a true recommendation. So that's what we created. But the magic happens in the follow-up through email. So that flow that we set up is very personalized based on their answers, their skin type, all of that. And it's based on their recommendation and their age and all of those things. So I think the magic with the quiz is what you do after the fact. And so if you just go back to always, like, let this be your North Star. What would you do if you were in person with someone, right? You'd ask them some questions and then you'd bring them to the product that was best for them. And then you would educate them on why that product is the best for them and why it's going to solve the problem that they have or get them the outcome that they're looking for. And email is the way that you do that. And then, I think it depends on your business. I've seen others do it more personality based, like more of a BuzzFeed type quiz, which can be fun. I think you'll likely get some less qualified people through there, but it can still be fun. As long as you're cleaning your list, I think it's okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good tips, Jessica. We cannot talk about email marketing. And I'm suspecting that most of this conversation will be about email marketing because we're two obsessed email marketing persons here. But we cannot speak about email marketing if we don't touch upon copywriting, right?
Yeah.
So how do you go about copywriting? Like, what is your process to craft? I always like to say it's kind of a science and an art. How is your process? How do you get from like, okay, you close a client to write the first word, I would say, and then to
absolutely. Yeah. So if I'm working with someone setting up their automation, I do everything soup to nuts, and that includes the copy. And my process specifically is I first give them a voice brand workbook. And this is something you guys should do for yourselves, even if you're not working with an outside person, because sometimes we just don't really think about it, right? And that's everything from like what emojis you love to use, the emojis you never use, the words you never use, that kind of thing. How do you greet people? My number one tip, especially for those who feel like they're not good writers, and if there's any copywriters listening here, I 110% value what you do and we need you. But what I find is most of the time we are overthinking this. All you need to do if you want to sell your products to people is you need to use the words that they use. It's literally that simple. So you have that brand voice workbook because you want everything you say to sound like you, right? You don't want to sound like a robot. I do find too, a lot of people when they're writing, especially if they come from a corporate background, all of a sudden they sit down to write an email and it sounds all like proper and corporate-y. So if that is you, I recommend you speak what you want to say and transcribe it, and then you can just clean it up. That helps. But it's really all about speaking the same exact words that your customer is speaking. So I will go and I look through product reviews. I look through social media comments, customer service inquiries, all of that to understand what this consumer is looking for from this product. Why are they buying this product? What made them choose this versus something else? And all of that information is hidden in those innocuous things like reviews and comments because they're telling you. You just have to read it. You can also, if you're newer to business and you don't have that yet, just go read stuff on Amazon of like a similar product because it's all in there too. And then I just mirror that those words back to them. So it totally depends on the brand a little bit. But for instance, I worked with this artist, and people don't need art, right? They want it. It's definitely not a necessity. But when they have this beautiful, bright, colorful artwork on their walls, when they walk in the door from a hard day at work, and it just lights them up and makes them feel happy. And how do I know that? Because they told us in the reviews and in the social comments. And so it is content like that that I put in the emails, because they're going to say, oh yeah, it will do that. And ultimately you want people to feel seen and heard and be able to say, yes, that's me. Okay, I need this. That's my simple way.
How would you say, I love it. And again, we're twin souls here from an email.
Yeah, simpatico for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And tell me, how about design? What percentage would you put like design on the effectiveness of an email?
So this is like the big email debate, right? And I think it depends on the brand. I have seen some brands who they spend so much time designing their emails. And so we test out doing more text-based stuff, and it just doesn't work as well. And then there's other brands where the text-based stuff outperforms the overly designed stuff. So I think there's a lot of variables that go into it. And ultimately, you just have to test it and see what happens. What I will say, though, is so many people, and this happens more in like the small business community, is they will use a platform like Flowdesk because it's really pretty. The problem is it has no functionality. Like the functionality is terrible. It doesn't properly integrate with your Shopify or BigCommerce store. You get no data. And while I understand that pretty is important, pretty does not equal profit. And I think you have to pick functionality over design. So all of that said, ultimately, it depends. You need to test it. And I love to create pretty emails. And you can create pretty emails in things like Klaviyo or, any of the other better email platforms. Did that answer your question, Diego?
Yes, definitely. Because actually, there's a concept. I don't know if it's mine, if I read it, ideas are of everyone. But I like to think about the UX of an email, right?
Yeah.
And emails should have an intrinsic UX, right? And make it easy for the reader to know what's next, what they should do next, right? And I really believe that you accomplish that as the same as with a website, right? With an e-commerce website, copy, structure of information, and design. And many people think that email is just design and copy, right? And they have a hard time putting everything together. And talking about structure, right? What is it that you enjoy the most? Writing a subject line, writing the headline, writing the body? What is it that you spend more time thinking about?
Interesting. I definitely more the copy inside. So I understand that subject lines matter, right? Because it's the thing that's going to get them to open. And so many people are of the belief that the subject line is the most important thing that you can write, because if they never open it, they're not going to see what's inside. And that is true. But at the same time, in my experience, I have found that what's more important is the overall relationship that particular subscriber has with your business. Good subject line or bad subject line, right? if I am interested in what this brand has to say, the subject line is not the reason why I open or don't open the email. Very rarely. It's, do I want to hear what this person has to say to me? Do I care about what this business might be showing me right now? And of course, I tell everyone, don't project your own feelings, right, onto your customers. But this is just after many years of testing many things. And that's my conclusion on it. But once they open the email, how do you get them to take action? Opening it, cool, you opened it. But if you don't click it and go to my website, then you're not going to buy anything. So I like to spend more time there.
And you spend more time in the body. And do you write your subject lines after you wrote the body of the text of the email? You write the subject lines before? Do you keep tweaking and changing up to the last moment before hitting send?
It depends. Usually, if it's not, so here's what I also have found, and this is going to be different for every brand. So you guys need to test this. But at my previous day job, when I was running the email and we were sending, 3 to 5 emails a week to 300,000 people, if it was some sort of promotion or sale or new product, they wanted that subject line to be straight and to the point. Just tell me what I'm going to find inside. And in that case, I would often write the subject line first. If this was more of a product curation, right, or some sort of collection, or if we're sending them some educational blog post, something like that they wanted to be a little bit more suggestive and witty. And I could tell based on the data, right? Because I would test this all the time. So when I sent educational or non-promo things, the suggestive things did better. When I send promotions, the straight and to the point did better. So that kind of dictated how I did it. And no, I don't. I overthink everything other than the subject line. Where do you fall on this, Diego? I want to know. Same question back to you, sir.
Oh, okay. So I do put a lot of attention on the subject line. I like the subject. So I like the subject line and the preview text to tell a story because of what we've been talking before, right? Like maybe they don't open it, but I want to already tell a story. But at the same time, depending on the brand or depending on the strategy of the campaign, you might want to drive a little bit of curiosity because you start persuading there, right? But
absolutely.
Yeah. But also it's true what you're saying. I love email, so I subscribe to many. I have more than I can handle newsletters. And what happens, there are a couple of newsletters that I don't even read the subject line. I know that if they come from these people, they're going to be good, and I just open them, right? So it's even what's important, and I test this a lot as well. What's important also is the sender's name. One, like for example, and I've tried it many times. One thing is for the email coming from e-commerce badassery, but maybe another thing is coming from Jessica.
Yeah,
right?
I use both. I use both.
Exactly. You do that mix, and you get results from that. And people, it's always great when you get responses from an automated email. And then you
absolutely,
say, oh, it made the trick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, if you can get a reply, I mean, that signal to the email service providers is really good for your deliverability. And me
and for
as
your
like
egos.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. But for me as like a service provider, infopreneur, I think is the word people use. Like my emails come from Jessica. I use a vertical pipe, and then it says e-commerce badassery. There are a lot of people out there who just use their name and not the name of their business. And I'm like, I legit have no idea who you are, because I don't know you as your name.
Yeah.
I know you as your brand. So I think for most businesses, doing a combination of the two probably works the best. I think some people will say, well, if you put a name there, people will think like, oh, I must know them, and that it will like entice them to open it. And I mean, maybe, but the other thing that you have to kind of think about is you want the expectation of the subject line and the preview text. I'm glad you brought that up because so many people don't use it and it's so important. It's like, I don't remember how many extra characters it is, but it's decent to, you know, get a little bit more information.
Like, if you can see this in the browser, like I go.
Yeah. The view, or it will be the alt text from your logo at the top. Yeah. But you want whatever expectation you set from that subject line and preview text, it needs to match what's inside that email too, because this is an experience that you're creating. So trying to clickbaity emails will get your email open, but then the person's going to be like annoyed and disappointed by what they found inside and maybe not open your next email. So curiosity is so important because as humans, we are all curious and voyeuristic and all of these things, but just, you know, you got to like toe the line of what's in it for you versus what's in it for them. I think you always have to kind of put them first too.
Let's talk about, I would say it can be a boring subject or a subject that you might be tired of talking about, but it's the elephant in the room. And actually, it can be a very interesting subject. And it's this, you want to say it? I'm sure that you know what I'm going to talk about. Or not?
I'm not sure if I know where you're going.
Okay. ChatGPT. Everyone's a copywriter now.
Yeah.
Everyone's a copywriter. Yeah. Everyone, write an email, and they think that's okay because that AI wrote it is going to be effective. And what I've been seeing, and I would like to learn what is that you've been seeing, that many companies, well, this came out, it was November last year. Many companies thought, oh yeah, now I have an email marketer or a copywriter in-house, so I'm not going to hire any external copywriters just to hit a wall very hard.
Right.
Most experiences. So what's been your experience with clients, people you know, other agencies, how ChatGPT has impacted mainly their email business or email strategy?
So I previously did a pretty deep dive into a couple of different AI tools. And here's what I think. Are they going to replace humans? No. And if you think that they are, how do I say this nicely? If you think that they are going to
badassery, you don't say it nicely.
So I think from like you as the business owner, right? If you are thinking, okay, cool, I don't need to hire any experts or strategists, like I'm just going to use this AI. I think ultimately you're just going to get subpar results because here's what I figured out. The content you get from these tools is only as good as the input that you put in. And the only way that you are able to create good inputs is if you're actually good at creating content and marketing copy and, you know, direct response copy and exactly. So while I think they are a great tool and assistant, I don't think they're going to replace anything. And not to mention all of like the potential problems. It's just scraping info from the internet, right? So it's not all accurate. It can't necessarily write in your tone of voice unless you give it a lot of prompts to explain what that is. So what I have found is for the people that I work with, for them, it's really great to get them started so they don't have to stare at a blank page. And in that, I completely understand because
writer's
back
block
in the day,
solution.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that like blank page and blinking cursor, it's stressful to look at, right? So I understand. But at the same time, no one can talk about your product or talk to the customer better than a human can, you know? So who knows where this is all going to go. And I imagine that the models are going to get better and all of that. But I think at the end of the day, the human touch, especially in our digital world, that's why brick and mortar is not going to go away, right? So why do you want a robot writing all your marketing copy? Yeah, it can save you some time, but you're going to lose that connection to the customer, in my opinion.
Once more, I agree. And you mentioned something that is also kind of polarizing in the email marketing world. You mentioned direct response copywriting, and I don't know if you've heard like the two sides of the coin, right? Like, when should you use direct response copywriting? Should you use direct response copywriting only on sales emails, or should you use it also in nurturing emails? And how hard can it get? Because you can get really salesy or really kind of persuasive, or whatever word that would be. So, how do you feel about it? Because personally, I think about it a lot, but I haven't come to a conclusion. Like, I love direct response copywriting. I think it's the only way to really learn copywriting. But then when you're going to use it, it's like, oh, is this too much? Do I feel like the inquirer?
I know. I too have not really come to a solid conclusion on that. I think that because here's the other thing too. When most people hear that,
it's fun to write direct response copy. That's another thing, right?
Yeah. And I think the thing is, like, there's always someone out there who ruins something for everyone else, right? So you get like those few bad actors out there who like use it in a really icky way. And so it makes you feel like it's icky all around, and it's not. So it's all about how you apply it. And even a while ago, the founder of ManyChat, right? Instagram, DM automation, and they work with all these other platforms. When they first reached out to me to come on my podcast, I was like, ooh, automated like messenger, because of the experience that I had with previous people who ruined my perception of it. And then when I had the conversation and really saw all that it was capable of and the way that you could apply it, completely changed my mind. It was kind of the same thing with AI. And I was like, oh, this stuff is stupid. And then I'm like, okay, I owe it to my audience to dive in a little bit deeper and test it out and learn a little bit more. And I was like, oh, okay, I see how this fits. And I think direct response copywriting is the same thing, because at the end of the day, all it is, like, take the salesy ick factor out of it. All it is telling the customer what to do next and helping them make a buying decision, which is all we're trying to do. So I think it really comes down to how you apply it. And I think it depends on your audience, your product, where are they in the journey with you. But I think it has a place and time. Yeah. But I'm a little wishy-washy on it.
You're right. It's true that a few ruined it for the rest, right? Because they underestimate the audience. They think they're stupid, and they think that they can use the same old tricks to like trick you,
right?
It's
and
true.
Even like when you go back and look at the sales letters that most copywriters will study and send people to, right? And it's a lot of it. I think what makes it mostly icky is it's very fear-based in most cases.
Yeah.
And right. But studies show that people are more likely to take action to avoid pain than to have pleasure. And so
loss aversion.
It's psychology, right? And so it's funny too, because I don't remember.
That's why I like direct response copywriting, because it's
it's based on human psychology.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I can understand it can feel manipulative, I think. And I think that's why people get a little weird about it. And that's why I get weird about it. But at the end of the day,
it's a fine line, right? Between
it is a fine line.
Persuasiveness and manipulative.
Yes. Right. And so it's all about how you apply it. And that's what, going back to, there's those people who are just icky about it. And I think too, you see it even more in the online educational space than in physical products, right? Because you've got so many people who are, oh my God, it's disgusting. So there's so many people who are like, just buy my course and you're going to be a millionaire and all of this stuff. And we know that it's crap, right? And you see them also actually selling that to e-commerce business owners, because how many people have come to me to be like, I started this website and I'm not getting any sales. And, they're selling this like junky stuff that they're drop shipping from China and all of that. And it's like, because people see through that. That's why. But there are some people who ruined it for everyone else. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, if you can just frame it as someone out there needs my product for whatever outcome it is that they're looking for. And if I don't explain to them why this is the product for them, I'm doing them a disservice, because I can't get them the solution that they need. So I think if you can approach it with that mindset and put them first, you can do it without being icky. That's my technical term.
Like it.
Icky.
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 That's a good name for the next company.
Mm-hmm.
E-commerce non-ickery.
How to not be icky. Yeah.
Exactly. So now we're talking about this, and I always like to ask people about, like, give me 3 authors, books or podcasts or content or whatever, 3 pieces of content that actually shaped you in what you've become.
Great question that I don't have an answer to. So, one, I actually don't read a lot of books. I do love to listen to podcasts, and I can, give some e-com podcasts that I like. But what has truly shaped me is the work that I've done. And I've always, I went to college and I did that whole thing, and I was the first one to graduate in my family, and it was all really exciting. But what I actually learned and where I actually grew was just by doing the work and failing and trying it again and doing it better and talking to my customers and having some really great leaders. I have 2 bosses in particular who kind of stand out as like the best bosses I ever had. And so if you are the boss and you don't necessarily have that, go find that in a coach or a consultant or an agency or something, because they are out there. But you got to just keep doing the freaking work. And I think that it's okay to not have it all figured out. And I think too, we see all of these other businesses that are where we want to be or where we think we want to be. And comparison is the thief of joy, as they say. But even more than that, you don't actually know what's going on in the back end of their business. It can look all beautiful from the outside, and they could be totally broke, overbought, owner doesn't take any money, about to close down. Like, you just don't know. So really just keep your eyes on your own paper. Exactly. Keep your eyes on your own paper. Your customers are going to tell you so much more than another business can tell you. and just keep doing the work. And that's where you're going to learn the most. That's my 2 cents on that.
Well, yeah. Actually, we're coming to an end. So what you just said, it's like an amazing closure to this amazing conversation that we had, Jessica, that honestly, I would keep talking about email like for hours. And I think that we'll find many more interesting things to talk about. But yeah, we come to an end, and I want to thank you very much. And also ask you, is there anything else that you would like to add to everything that we've said?
Yeah. So definitely, if you didn't totally hear what I just said, please rewind and listen to that again. Keep your eyes on your own paper, put your customers first. But I think really understand that there is no silver bullet. And if someone told you that there is, they lying. And what works for one business is not going to work for another. And it's so important that you are just continually testing and learning and iterating and trying new things and fail fast at them. And failure's just like, it's just a lesson. It's just a piece of data. Like, sweet, that doesn't work. Let's, try something else. And the people that I see who are still thriving, even in these very tough times, are the ones who are intentional. They're niched and specific. They're not trying to be everything to everyone. And they put their customer first. And that is honestly the thing that sets them apart from everyone else. So those are kind of my last words of wisdom there. And I have a freebie for everyone as well.
Oh, beautiful. Everyone likes freebies.
Yeah. So if you go to ecommercebadassery.com/Tavano, there's something there for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm a marketer and we need it. Surprise. We need to leave a little curiosity, right? But head there. There's something special for you.
Beautiful. Thank you. We're going to share that link in the description of the video and all on our socials. Jessica, thank you very much. It's been great talking with you. And I'm sure that we're going to be meeting again and talking about some other stuff because has been very entertaining and very knowledgeable. So thank you very much for joining the link and have a great day. For all of our audience, thank you very much. I'm Diego Praderi and this was The Link. Bye-bye.